Realtor parked in my spot, so I made sure your buyer was dissuaded. I live in a condo where everyone has their own assigned parking spot. There are visitor spots scattered around the lot, but your spot is your spot. You pay for it in your HOA fees. One random Wednesday afternoon, I came home early from work. The parking lot was basically empty because everyone else was still at their jobs. I pulled up to my spot and there's this huge black SUV just sitting there. Now, we get random visitors sometimes who park wherever they want. Usually it's an honest mistake. So I parked right behind the SUV, blocking them in, and walked up to the driver's window. The guy was on his phone scrolling through something. I knocked on the window. He rolled it down and looked at me like I was interrupting the most important moment of his life. I said really politely, "Hey, this is actually my assigned spot. How long are you planning to be here?" He barely looked up from his phone and goes, 45 minutes. Just 45 minutes. I pointed across to the visitor spots that were literally 20 feet away. "Could you maybe move to one of those? They're completely empty." That's when he lost it. He screamed no at me in this high-pitched voice I didn't even know a grown man could make. Then he started ranting. "I'm a realtor. I'm showing a house. The one right there. Property management told me to park in this spot specifically." He kept going on and on about how important he was and how he had every right to be there. I'm standing there thinking, dude, there are empty visitor spots right in front of you. This isn't about convenience. You're just being a jerk. But I didn't have the energy to argue with this guy. So right in the middle of his rant, I just said, "Okay then," and walked away. I went and parked in a visitor spot myself, even though I was the one who actually lived there and paid for my assigned space. Here's the thing though, my condo window faces directly out to the parking lot, and I could see his SUV sitting in my spot, and I could see the front door of the unit he was showing, the one he was so important and busy showing to potential buyers. I thought about it for exactly 5 seconds. Then I grabbed my Bluetooth speaker, the big one I use for barbecues. I set it up on my windowsill facing directly toward the parking lot. Then I pulled up the most explicit, loudest, bass-heavy rap music I could find on my phone. I'm talking about the kind of music where every other word gets bleeped out on the radio, the kind that makes your car shake when it drives by. I cranked that speaker up to full volume and just let it play. Within 2 minutes, I saw the realtor come outside looking around trying to figure out where the music was coming from. He couldn't see me because of the window glare, but I could see him perfectly. He looked annoyed, then he looked stressed. The potential buyers came out right after him. This nice-looking couple, probably in their 30s. They were looking around at the parking lot with these concerned faces. The woman said something to the realtor, and he was shaking his head and pointing around like he was trying to explain. I let the music play for 30 minutes straight. The whole time they were trying to tour this condo, all they could hear was explicit rap music blasting through the parking lot. Every time they went back inside, I could see them through the windows still talking and looking distracted. The realtor kept coming outside to glare in different directions. He had no idea it was coming from my unit. He probably thought it was coming from a car or another building. At one point, he actually got in his SUV and I thought he was going to leave, but he just sat there on his phone looking furious. The couple left after about 35 minutes. They didn't look happy. They got in their car and drove off while the realtor was still sitting in my parking spot in his SUV. He stayed for another 10 minutes after they left, just scrolling on his phone. When he finally drove away, I turned off the music. My neighbors who were home probably thought I'd lost my mind for half an hour, but most people were still at work, so I figured 30 minutes of noise wasn't going to ruin anyone's day. The next week, I saw that same unit still listed online. No pending sale, no sold sign, and I never saw that realtor or his black SUV in my parking lot again. Maybe next time he'll just park in the visitor spot like a normal person.